إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كبيرا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, what time is the adhan? 10:05 is the adhan.
For today.
10 o'clock is normally the time?
Okay.
10 o'clock is the normal time?
No, we on 9:45 is the adhan time.
9:45 is the adhan time.
Yeah.
Okay, tight.
But today, inshallah.
Okay. خيرا إن شاء الله. خيرا إن شاء الله. طيب. طيب. Okay. Well, inshallah, let's get started today with the questions within Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hopefully we'll see how much time we have left, or perhaps we'll just have a jilsa for just Q&A tonight, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's been a lot of questions lately, alaikum salam to Allah, by brothers and sisters in person, let alone those online. It's been a few nights we haven't had the time to finish all of them. So seeking Allah's permission, seeking Allah's help and His aid, we'll try to answer some of the brothers and sisters' questions tonight, bi idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. There was a question last night about a student of knowledge who is studying the Maliki school of thought, the Maliki discipline of Islamic jurisprudence. And he said that he finds that many scholars say that one of the proofs in the Maliki school of thought, the actions of the Medinites, Amal Ahl Medina, what the people of Medina did and understood, is considered in general as a dalil, as a proof of the evidence, a legal proof among those who study and follow and have been trained in this school of thought, madhab of Imam Malik rahimahullah. And he said that he finds that many scholars disagree with this. Some of them may reject this, but he finds it to be satisfactory, and what is my opinion, etc. We said last night, first and foremost, is that we congratulate you for seeking knowledge. You should be thankful to Allah and grateful to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala by allowing you to have the desire, to have the want to seek ilm shar'i, knowledge of the deen, regardless of the field of expertise, regardless of the school of thought, this and that, tafsir, aqidah, hadith, maliki, shafi'i, al-muhim, just ilm in itself. Ilm in itself is something that is abandoned by most people today, unfortunately. Just Islamic knowledge, period. Everyone understand this? Islamic knowledge. This is something that we mentioned in a lecture before, about reading about the Sahaba, the lives of the Sahaba. And then there are people who may sit down and they may read books of the Sahaba, which some of the information isn't sahih. Some of the stories are not too authentic. But we say that's better at least than those who have no respect for the Sahaba. Those who don't care anything about the Sahaba, don't want to read nothing about their lives. At least they're trying to do something. They're in a forward movement. They're moving forward. Hopefully they'll get on track. But at least they're what? Actually moving. Okay, so Islamic knowledge in general in 2016 has been abandoned. And then there are different levels. Those who seek Islamic knowledge in this field and that field. Those who seek Islamic knowledge in this understanding and that understanding. This madhab, this firqa, Sufi, this, that, kada. That's all secondary. But at least the initial step is what? Seeking ilm. As we learned from the story of Salman al-Farisi radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that he went to the Jews, he went to the Christians, he went to them until he finally got to An-Nabi al-Kareem alayhi salam. So his journey, his search for the haqq, he didn't just reach his destination overnight. He went from one land, one country, he was sold into slavery, they broke their promise, he had to escape, so on and so forth. Until he reached and he saw that man and he knew that that man was the Prophet of Allah. So people being religious is something that isn't what? It's not the norm today. It's not the cool thing to do to be religious. Jew, Christian, whatever you are. And most people, especially those who come from another country and they have children here in America, they complain about this. Their children don't want to be religious. Their children don't want to follow and practice the old teachings. You go to the Hindus will say the same. The Sikhs, the young Sikh children are what? We go out to the basketball on Lincoln Park around the corner and we see the little Sikh kids with the thing on their heads, and they have on the basketball shorts and the socks, the high socks, the expensive Nike sneakers, shooting this and that. That's what they want to be. They want to be sitting in the temple, reciting this and reciting that. This is reality. And the Muslim kid is the same. The young Jewish children are the same. That's how it is. Not too many people, unfortunately, are interested in actually practicing a religion today. So those who do practice a religion, they're closer to the haqq. Many people, they accept Islam and they were religious before Islam. I was a church goer before Islam. I used to read the Bible before Islam. Everybody understand this? So when they accept Islam, they learn about Allah and His Rasul is what? Second nature. To go to the mosque, to read the Quran. And there are many people that were totally wicked before Islam. They accept Islam, but they still have some what? Their ways of not practicing. Everybody clear on this? And the same applies to seeking knowledge. Being studious is something that isn't that common. It's uncommon. Reading a book. When was the last time you seen somebody actually reading a book? Reading a tablet, reading a phone, but actually reading a book on the train, on the bus. When you see a person on the train reading a book, he stands out. She sticks out. Everybody on the train is doing this in the morning. On their what? On the phone. And the percentage of people that are actually reading something, very, very slim. A text message, Facebook, this, a joke, a video, music, gather. So that's just being studious. Then being a Muslim and being studious. Seeking the ilm of the deen is much better than many others. Something that's been abandoned. So we congratulate you upon that. Secondly, we congratulate you upon seeking fiqh of the deen, which is a sign that Allah wants good for you. A sign that Allah intends to bless you in this life and hereafter. And we said that along with you studying the Maliki madhab, you should have a great deal of knowledge and give a great deal of time and attention to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Reading his ahadith. The sharh is one thing, explanation is one thing, interpretation, what the ulama say, but just reading the ahadith. Many people who study madhabs and schools of thought, they are very lean when it comes to hadith. They're lean, they don't read them too much. They don't have knowledge of them too much. When it comes to madhab, fulan, he said, this principle, this point, which could be beneficial, they have a lot of meat. But when it comes to hadith, they're lean. So you need to balance your what? Your diet. The diet has to be balanced. When you're studying Islamic fiqh, you cannot just be a vegetarian. You have to have vegetables, you also have to eat meat. You need vitamin C, vitamin A, you need protein, you need this. You have to have a balanced diet. Everybody understand this? Rather, the hadith part of the diet should be what? Should be more. You should eat that more than other things. It's a very crucial point. And if you look at the ulama who studied these different madhabs, those that were closer to hadith and dealt with hadith more than others, they were further from the other problems. Nawawi, Ibn Hajar, just look about them. They were closer to hadith. They had more respect for hadith. So they were abad. They were far away from ta'assub, from fanaticism and from bigotry. Not saying that there was no fanaticism and there was no bigotry. We're not saying that, because that's reality as well. But they were khayrun min ghayrihim. Because of what? Hadith. And there's some of the ulama whom hadith saved them from being nothing, from being totally insignificant. If it wasn't for hadith and their dealings of hadith, they wouldn't have been mentioned. Everybody understand this? So that's the next piece of advice that we give you, to read Sunnah abundantly. Read the books of Sunnah abundantly. And we also mentioned that the Maliki ulama, many of them have made great contributions to hadith school. Ibn Abdul Barr, rahimahullah, of the 5th century, he has two of the greatest books of fiqh al-hadith. The first one is At-Tamheed lima fi Muwatta' Malik. It says what? At-Tamheed. We won't have to mention the whole long title. And the second one is Al-Istidhkar, which is considered to be a summarized version of a Tamheed. These are two of the greatest books of fiqh al-hadith and the sharh al-sunnah. At-Tamheed and Al-Istidhkar. And there's no student of knowledge of hadith or fiqh that is going to master those sciences unless he's read those books and he knows his way around those two books. At-Tamheed and Al-Istidhkar. He talks about Malik's madhab, the madhab of the Salaf al-Salih, of the Sahaba, madhab Abi Hanifa, Shafi, Ahmed, Ataf, Fulan, Dawood ibn Ali al-Zahiri. Very important book. Let alone the ma'ani of the hadith. At-Tamheed and Al-Istidhkar for all hadith disciples. Two books that you need to have. If you don't have the ability to buy the actual book, get the PDF. At-Tamheed and Al-Istidhkar. Very crucially important books. So therefore, let's get to the core part of the question now. What is your opinion about studying the Maliki madhab and your opinion about Amal al-Madina? In other words, the text of the Quran and the Sunnah, the Muslims can generally agree that these are sacred texts, and that we are to take the Islamic rulings, the rulings of halal and of haram, from the Quran and from the Sunnah. How to pray, how not to pray, when to pray, pilgrimage, where do you make pilgrimage to, what do you do when you make Hajj, Eid, Al-Adha, Eid Fitr, marriage, divorce, hijab, the halal and the haram. Everybody understand this? Is it permissible for me to sell things like this? Can I be a merchant? Can I do this? Can I do that? We can generally agree on this, the Quran and the Sunnah. And after the Quran and the Sunnah, is that it? There's no other source for evidence? There's no other source for legal authority? We say, of course, there are other sources. And those other sources, the people of knowledge, they differ. They differ over them. Some say right and some say left. So before we go this far, we have to understand what's meant by what the people of Medina did. There is an issue in which there's no verse from the Quran, hypothetically speaking, no hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, but we have statements of the people of Medina. Those Muslims, those scholars, and also the normal people as well, who lived in Medina before Imam Malik. What he saw them doing and saying, is it a proof or not? Everybody understand this? Is it a dalil or what? Or not? Everybody understand this? Or, even more dangerous than this, is an issue in which we do have a hadith that encourages something. But Malik says, I never saw the people of Medina doing it. I never saw any of my teachers, my ulama, who lived in Medina, because no, Malik ibn Anas, rahimahullah, who lived in the 2nd century, he did not travel abroad like Shafi'i did, like Ahmed did. He didn't travel to vast lands. He stayed in Medina predominantly he stayed in Medina. All that he needed was what? Was right there. The hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ were fresh. Everybody understand this? The Prophet ﷺ died, the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, they're what? Right in Medina. So he felt that I don't have to go to Iraq and Syria and North Africa, this country. He didn't feel I didn't have to go to those other countries. So stay right here and learn where I'm at. So therefore, the hadith encourages us to do something. And Imam Malik says, I never saw the people of Medina doing it. I never saw them doing it. Such as fasting 6 days of Shawwal, for example. Fasting the 6 days of Shawwal. The hadith clearly instructs us to fast the 6 days of Shawwal. It's a virtue. Kana kasiyam ad-dahr. It's like fasting, what? Everybody understand this? And for example, Imam Malik will say, I didn't see the Medanites doing it. I never saw them doing it. So, is it correct for a person who studies this school of thought to say that it is not the sunnah to fast the 6 days of Shawwal? Because the dalil, the hujjah, the fahm, the understanding of al-Madinah. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this? Have we perceptualized the issue yet? Or conceptualized it yet? What the people of what? Medina did. Everybody clear on this? Theory and what? Practice. Theory and what? And practice. Everybody understand this? A person, he was an apprentice of judges, Supreme Court judges for years. He says, I never saw no judge doing this. Never. Even though it states it in the law books. But I was the secretary, I was the assistant, I was for this judge for years. I never ever saw any other judges doing it. So he says, therefore, we should disregard what it states in the law book and do what? The practice of the judges. Those who are experts with those books. Everybody understand this? This is the hypothetical way of understanding this. What's meant by what the people of Medina did. Everybody clear on this? What the people of Medina understood. So is that a hujjah Is it dalil, their understanding, or not? Everybody clear on this? If it is a dalil, why? And if it isn't a dalil, why not? And if it is a dalil, is it absolute, or are there details? Some things that they said, it's hujjah. When we say hujjah, it means dalil, legal proof. Some things they said, we say, no. Detail. Everybody clear on this so far? Okay, so before we get into this answer, we have to understand the issue of a madhab. What's meant by madhab? A word you hear all of the time, a madhab. I want to study fiqh. Should I study madhab or study ahl hadith? Ahl hadith. Comparative fiqh. Well, how should I study? School of thought. What does it mean, a school of thought? The word madhab comes from the word dhahaba. Dhahaba, yadhabu, madhaban. As Mughira ibn Shu'bah radiallahu ta'ala narrated in Sunan Abi Dawood, that the Prophet ﷺ كان إذا ذهب المذهب أبعد. Whenever the Prophet ﷺ made his madhab, he would go far. In other words, when the Messenger of Allah wanted to do what? Relieve himself. When he wanted to relieve himself, he would do what? أبعد. He would walk far away. كان إذا ذهب المذهب المصدر. Whenever he made the dhahab, whenever he went, he says, what do we say in English? Allahu Akbar. I have to what? No. How do you say? So I gotta what? I gotta go. You gotta say, I gotta what? Gotta go. Like madhab, dhahaba. And dhahaba means to what? To go. In English we say, I have to? I have to go. Everybody understand this? The little child says, I went on myself. I dhahabtu. I made a madhab. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this? This is from one. Everybody understand this? Is all what? Intertwined. The language, the culture. So the word madhab, that's what it's based off of. Dhahaba, he went. In other words, this was the view that this imam took, regardless of the dalil of the kitab and sunnah. But this was his madhab. Is it permissible to wear white? He says, I think it's permissible to wear white. So we say the madhab of Muhammad ibn Munir is that it's permissible what? To wear white. Everybody understand this? And then another brother, he comes up to me and he says, is it permissible to wear this type of vest, a brown vest? I says, it's permissible to wear a brown vest. Then a third comes up and he asks me, he says, Mufti, should a student of knowledge cover his head in public? I say, yes, a student of knowledge should cover his head in public. Then the fourth one comes and asks me, Mufti, do you think it's good to have a pocket watch? I says, you should have a pocket watch. Well, how could that? So, or just one person. One person, he comes and he asks me 50 questions. So he writes down the questions and the answers and he organized them from A to Z. Attire, diet, this, dress code, kada, kada. He refines them, he classifies them, he organizes them, and he puts them in a notebook. And then the one who did this was Salih. Salih passed on the notebook to another Salih. And then Salih, I'm going down, I'm dead. I've passed on. But from Salih, what he told the next Salih, how Mufti answers the questions, how he thinks. He's an old-fashioned type of guy. Everybody says he's a what? He's an old-fashioned type of guy. Everybody clear on this? He has this, he has that. He's an old-fashioned guy. So Salih, he has 50 different answers that I gave, and he sees until he looks into my mind that Mufti is an old-fashioned type of guy. So even though I didn't ask Mufti about what type of socks he wears, I'm going to take a guess that he would wear this type of socks, old man socks. I'm going to take a guess based off of the 50 answers that he gave me. In most cases, he would have worn all-out socks. Old school type of what? Socks. Everybody see this? And then he thinks about something else. If Mufti drove a car, what type of car would he drive? He would have this type of car, classic type of car. Everybody understand this? And Mufti goes to sleep. How does he sleep? Let's say he sleeps in old man pajamas. So he thinks about it. He classifies it how I thought. Everybody understand this? And he, instead of now 50 different fiqh issues, he has now what? 150. And then a deed comes behind him. And they keep building, classifying, branching off, and refining. Until finally we have a what? A school of thought, a madhab. We have general principles. Anything old is good. Anything classic is what? Good. Anything from the grandfather times is what? Good. We have general principles that Mufti thought like. General what? Principles. And we also have specific things that we asked him. Specific things that he asked him. Do you like pocket watches? Mufti said yes, specifically. Even though we already know that he likes what? Old classic type of things. So now we have a what? This is my My what? My way, my method. How I think, how I deduce, and the actual specific what? No, the actual specific what? Answers to specific things, Sharif. The way you think is one thing, but then you have something specific. I know that my dad likes sweet things to eat before he goes to sleep. He has a sweet tooth, but his favorite thing is strawberry shortcake. That's his. I know that specifically, and that falls under the general umbrella of what? Sweet things. That's how he what? Thinks, generally and specifically. And then you branch off as the example that we gave. So this is a school of thought. That's what means, a way of thinking, collective views, collective opinions, along with the systematic procedure. The what? Systematic procedure. Everybody understands the what? The systematic procedure. Everybody clear on this? Everybody understand this? The systematic procedure. So we have what Imam Malik said, and then we have what the students of Imam Malik said. What they said is based off of what? No. Imam Malik's what? His principles, his way of thinking. Everybody understand this? In the next generation. And they bring up issues, new type of things, and they classify it, they refine it, they explain it. In other words, Adib says, he gets Salih out there, he says, the first Salih, this is what he really meant. This is the explanation of his kalam. And Salih explained this is what Mufti meant. And they write it down and they compile it. And then he travels, he goes back to Guyana. And he goes back to Sudan. And Adib goes down south to Florida. And he takes on what? He takes on what? What does he take on now? Sends pupils. And he teaches them. He takes on pupils. And he takes on pupils. And then he have a what? A school. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this? General principles and a specific what? Specific things. Everybody clear on this? So this is what's meant by a madhab. So therefore, they generally agree the first source of dalil is what? The Quran. The second source of dalil is what? Sunnah in general, because it details in that. Ahad, mutawatir, da'if, mursal, but generally hadith. The third source is what now? Allahu Alam. Everybody understand this? Some may say ijma', some may say it's what the people of Medina came upon. That's it. That's the ijma'. Some may say ijma' of the Sahaba. Some may say qiyas. Making an analogy. Making a what? An analogy. Making a what? An analogy. Basing something that we have dalil for. Basing something for which there's no dalil. Based off of that. Everybody understand this? So this is where the difference comes in. When a companion makes a view, is it a dalil or not? If some say it is, and some say it. So Ahmad's madhab is this, and Abu Hanifa's madhab is? Everybody understand this? So this is the general concept of a what? A madhab. It's a system. And then, is it permissible for you to study or follow this system? What does it mean when we say, I'm Maliki, I'm Shafi'i, I'm Hanafi? What does this mean? There's more than one way of understanding this term. And then you must have this detail. It's very important. Some people, they say that it's a bid'ah to have a madhab. You cannot have a madhab, you cannot study it, you can't follow it. It's total bid'ah. Others may say the exact opposite. It's mandatory for you to have a madhab. You have to study a madhab. And if you don't, you're not going to understand fiqh. And you're picking and choosing. It doesn't work like that. And then there's some who have detail in the middle. What does it mean to say that I'm Maliki? If you mean that you were trained by Maliki scholars. My first fiqh teacher was Maliki. My first Quran teacher was Maliki. I studied Arabic in North Africa. I went to Tunisia or Algeria or Libya. And that's where I learned Arabic, and I learned how to pray and practice in North Africa. My ulama were what? The Maliki ulama. Do I agree with everything they said? That's a different story. But I was formally trained in what? Maliki madhab. Everybody understand this? And when I studied the Maliki madhab, the principles that were mentioned to me made total sense to me. Quran, Sunnah, Ijma', what the people of Medina did. This is the Prophet's city. The tabi'een, the sahaba they took from the Prophet. So it only makes sense. So I agree with it. So therefore, when an issue comes to me, I put it through my what? My feeder, my synthesizer. Everybody understand this? I sift it through my what? Through my what? Cheesecloth, whatever. I'm him sifting through the information. Everybody understand this? There's some sifters that are yani, fine, some are larger, depending on what you're sifting and how fine you want the finished product. Everybody, that's what it means. But if something comes in which it doesn't make sense according to the Maliki madhab, and another man's view is stronger, or is an issue which Imam Malik didn't know about, or an issue which Imam Malik says, Allahu Alam, I don't know, Mahadri, or an issue in which the Imam Malik didn't know about the hadith, and it's clear to me, it makes sense to me, that I'm going to what? I want to take that view. That's a different story. Everybody understand this? The next situation or scenario is one who says, I'm Maliki. This is how I was trained. This is what I studied. These are the books that I learned from the ulama who taught me Maliki fiqh. Even though all of the other ulama are against Imam Malik in this issue, the dalil is clear, it's lucid. Imam Malik this, Imam Malik said he didn't know. There's a hadith, but you know, I'm what? I'm Maliki. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to look towards it. I'm not going to consider it. I'm what? I'm Maliki. Alas, the door is closed. That's a different ruling. That's what? That's a what? Different ruling. Or those who say, I'm Maliki, and that's the best madhab. The top madhab, the strongest madhab. And every other madhab is weak and inferior and soft and soggy. Everybody understand this? So it has to be what? Details. What? And there's a difference between you studying a madhab and between you following the madhab. There's a difference. I could study a system, but then after I've studied for 5 years or 10 years, I now do what? Well, I seek the what? The formness. I learned the form, now it's time for the what? Formness. Whether it's according to my system or? Everybody understand this? This is what my parents taught me, and then I grew up and I learned other things that are more beneficial. I kept their teachings too, but I learned this as well. And I branched off and I explored. So there's a difference between a person being a bigot, a blind bigot. Nothing else makes sense except for what Imam Malik said. And then the person who says, I studied Malikiya, that's how I was trained, but I'm always open to sit and to debate with my brothers and to see who has a better, stronger view. It's a difference. A general person who lives in North Africa and he has a question about divorce. I divorced my wife and I was angry. The fatwa that those ulama gave him, they says, that's still your wife, it doesn't count. He's an alimi, he's a layman. He doesn't have to investigate and search. Khalas. Then he asked another question about breaking wudu from eating camel meat. He says it doesn't break your wudu. Then he asked another question, do I have to make wudu if I touch my private area? He says it doesn't break your wudu. Everybody understand this? He's following, just for example, he's following what in these situations? No, he's not following Maliki madhab. He's following the mufti. He's taking the fatwa of the mufti. And the mufti at that time happened to be Maliki. But if that Muslim who lived in Tunisia, if he traveled to Palestine, he went to visit Jerusalem, Bayt al-Maqdis, and he had a question. Something happened here, and he had to ask a mufti in a booth at the masjid there. He asked him, and the mufti says, make your salat again. That mufti in Palestine is Hanbali, for example. He would follow the what? He would follow the fatwa. He would follow the what? Fatwa. That came from a scholar that happened to be Hanbali. And if he went to Turkey, and he had a question, and he asked the alim in Turkey, the Turkish alim told him something, and the Turkish alim happened to be Hanafi. He's following the fatwa of that what? Alim, that mufti that happened to be Hanafi. Everybody understand this? Well, how can that? But the moment he starts studying and understanding certain things himself, there is no Maliki, Shafi. No. There's what? Which makes the most sense. Which what? Makes the most sense. Which interpretation of the verse is the strongest? Which understanding of the hadith is what? The strongest. What makes the most sense? The Prophet says, pour the water out if the dog licks in it. To say that it's kada or to say that wahakada. Everybody understand this depending on your level of knowledge, depending on your level of understanding. So I'm me, a general layman person, his madhab is going to be the madhab of his who? Of his mufti, his teacher. Everybody understand this? But the moment he mixes with other Muslims and he sees other things and he's confused, he's doubtful, he wants to ask a question, then he has to do what? Ask the question. He has to do what? Ask the question. But if he just lived his life based off of the original teachings, that will be what? Sufficient. Yeah. Everybody understand this? But he is not to force his view upon the next person. This is how I was taught in Algeria. This is how I learned how to make salat where? In Turkey. But now you see Muslims raising their hands or doing this or saying this, and you have a question, now it may be upon you to do what? Read and study. Everybody understand this? And find out why do Muslims have full beards. In my country, they have, their beards are trimmed. Is it permissible for me to trim my beard? Now that's a different story now. But if you remain in your own sector, your own region, where everybody's Hanafi, all the ulama Hanafi, all of the masters Hanafi, that's a different story. But now you're living in a different territory. You see things, you're exposed to other things. Now you have to find out, or you should find out what? What's strongest. Hanafi, Hanbali, or whatever the case may be. So a person attributing himself to a madhab, studying this madhab, being proficient in it, knowing it, because there's so much information. I have to master one thing and not be a jack of all trades, master of none. That's a different issue. Being a bigot, being a fanatic, being a total absolute blind follower, being a scholar who is unwilling to think and to investigate and look, that's what? Totally different. Everybody got this? So now let's ask ourselves a question. What separates the madhabs? What makes them different? What makes the way Abu Hanifa thought different than the way Imam Malik thought? Everybody understand this? What makes them different? Obviously they're different men, they're different people. But the striking difference is the what? Is the system. The sifter. His was a fine sift and his was what? For rocks. He's sifting through soil. And this guy was sifting for what? Flour. Something else. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this? Everybody understand this? Allah knows best. You guys. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear this or not? So therefore, let's say for example, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, let's say he says Quran comes first, then the hadith comes next. But even among the hadith, I don't accept every hadith. There are only certain hadiths that I accept. I'm not rejecting what the Prophet said, because if I was sitting in front of the Prophet, I said, no, I'm going to take it. But how did the hadith what? Get to me, not the interpretation. How did it what? How did it come to me? Through a narrator. Now, who is this narrator? How many narrators? One person brought it to me or 20? Is the hadith speaking about a specific issue or something that affects the Muslims at large? Does what is mentioned in this hadith go against a Quranic verse? Supposedly. Supposedly. Because there's no authentic hadith that goes against the Quran. Does this hadith go against a principle, a column, a rukn, a qaida of the deen that's well established? So he has different rules on accepting or rejecting a what? Hadith. And these principles may not be the same principles of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, he may say if the hadith is sahih, it's not weak, it's not defective, we have to take it. Everybody clear on this? So they have different what? Systems, different theories. And if the theory is different, then the practice is going to be different. Everybody clear on this? So Abu Hanifa, he says there's certain hadiths we take, certain hadiths we don't take. Everybody clear on this? Then comes after what? What comes after the hadith? He may say ijma, consensus, what all of the Muslims agreed upon. Everybody understand this? For example, and he may say what's after ijma? What a companion says, he may say qiyas. He may say when the companion takes a view, we don't take that view. Because the companion thinks, and the tabi'i thinks, and I think. Everybody understand this? Whether he's right, whether you agree or not. Everybody clear on this? Imam Malik rahimahullah, he comes along. He'll say Quran, he'll say hadith in general as well, because there may be some hadiths he may not take. And then comes after that, let's say for example, the ijma, the consensus of the people of Medina, for example. And then what comes after what the people of Medina said? Shafi'i rahimahullah, al-kitab, al-sunnah, al-ijma, qiyas, so on and so forth. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, they differ in their systems. They differ in their what? In their systems. Everybody understand this? This is what's meant by madhab, study of a madhab, and following of a madhab. Everybody understand this? Following the madhab until something else comes to you, that's one thing. That's not the same as a person saying you have to follow this system. And that's not the system that was explained by the Rasul. That's a huge problem. He's saying there's a second Sharia now. There's a second rule, there's a second legislature, and there is only one Sharia. So therefore, what the people of Medina did, we say there's a difference between what the people of Medina unanimously agreed upon, and then there's a difference between what the people of Medina differed over. There's a difference between what the Khulafa al-Rashideen did. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Umar Faruq, Uthman ibn Affan, and Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. what they did, the verdicts that they gave when they were the leaders, when they were in Medina, they were in charge. What they came together upon is not like what the rest of the Sahaba said. What the Sahaba said and did of Medina is not like the Tabi'een. Everybody understand this? What the early Medinites did is not like those who came later on in the time of Malik. So what the people of Medina did is on different what? Levels. And it's wrong to give it one general rule for all of the various levels. Sometimes what the people of Medina did and said is hujjah. And sometimes the people of Medina said and did is not a hujjah. Such as Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. He went to Kufa. He went to Iraq. He left Medina. So if Ibn Mas'ud narrates a hadith, or if Ibn Mas'ud takes an opinion, if he takes a view, are you going to say you're not going to accept it? Did Ibn Mas'ud not hear the Prophet? Did he not study with the Prophet? Was he not from the ulama of the Prophet? He was from his students, the ulama of the Sahaba. He's from the ulama, the students of the Prophet. They were ulama. So Ibn Mas'ud lived in Medina or not?
Yes.
He left. He left. He went to Iraq. He died there. Mu'adh bin Jabal went where? Shem. This companion went to Egypt. This companion went to Hakada. So can a person just say, I didn't hear of the people of Al-Medina doing it, so I'm not going to do it. But there's an authentic chain of narration that goes back to Ibn Mas'ud. It's a different story now. Everybody understand this is what? It's a different story. The companions did not stay what? In Medina. Ibn Abbas went to, where did he go? Ibn Abbas, went where? To Mecca. Why could that? Other Sahaba, Ta'if, this country, this part of Arabia, they spread out. So all of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ did not stay in where? Medina. All of it did. But there's some things that the people of Medina did keep, such as the measurements of the Prophet ﷺ. Sa', amud. How much water did the Prophet use in this? How much dates did he give in that? What do the people of Medina consider to be qulla? Qullatain. Everybody understand this? There's certain things that the people of Medina have foremost. They have the foremost say so in. Because they're right there. They're what? They're right there. That's the original place of origin. That's where it all started. You say what? Where what? Where it originated at. Everybody understand this? And the place of origination is going to have an effect upon the what? Authenticity of that thing. This is where it started. Here, not there. But a person may argue that point. He may what? He may argue that point. He says it started here, but one of the foremost students, he traveled. And when he traveled, he did what? He opened up his own dojo. So his style of fighting is not what? Authentic? It is. Everybody understand this? So there's no one ruling on what the people of Medina did and what they said. But in general, the dalil is kitab, sunnah, ijma'. After the ijma', we say the qiyas. And the qiyas is detailed in that as well. So many people made a lot of abundant qiyas. Others made a little bit of qiyas. Some people's qiyas were stronger than others. But now, last but not least, to show you some of the contradictions of many people, they say that a person, he says what? We don't get no controversial issues. Let's not even mention that. Al-Muhim, when we say what the people of Medina did, what does that resemble? That statement resembles what? Something more than that. What does it mean? Ahmad Ahl Medina, what the people of Medina didn't understand. That resembles a statement of what? What does that resemble? Nah. What the people of Medina did, what they understood. Another way of saying that is what?
Whatever they did, they followed the process.
La.
They saw the process.
The understanding of? Understanding of who? Salaf Salih. Where did the Prophet live and die? We can agree on that. So the hardcore teachings of the Prophet ﷺ were going to be where? The strongest? Initially. And even if Ibn Mas'ud left and went to Iraq, that's one person. How many other Sahaba were in? Medina. How many other Tabi'een studied under those Sahaba where? In Medina. Everybody understand this? After the Prophet ﷺ, different lands were opened up. They went to this country, they defeated the armies there, they spread Islam there, merchants traveled here, people went there, missionaries, the Muslims, they went to different places to spread Islam. But Medina was the what? The foundation. That's the core. Everybody understand this? That's the what? That's the core. So therefore, if you want to talk about the Salaf as-Salih, the pious predecessors, then the starting place for them will be where? Without a doubt. The place where they will be most numerous will be where? Medina. The less innovations, where? Medina. Once the Muslims took over Medina, it was either Muslim or Munafiq. The Jews were disgraced, they were humiliated, they were stifled, they had no power, no position. That's not the same as Iraq. There were Christians there, there were Jews there, there were Munafiqeen there were Zoroastrians there, all types of pagans and idol worshippers, all types of practices there. So the original pure way was where? Medina. Everybody understand this? When the Muslims conquered and the conquest of Iraq, there were many people who accepted Islam that didn't like Islam, they didn't want Islam. Everybody understand this? And they accepted Islam through nifaq. And that's when the different innovations came about. Shia, the Rafida, the Khawarij, these people and those people. None of those innovations started off where? In Medina. So if you say that what the people of Medina did is not a hujjah, what the people of Medina said is not substantial, then you also want to say what? Well, we just explained the what? Understanding of the world. Salaf Salih. So hypothetically, a person can say Imam Malik's madhab is the Salafi madhab. It's the what? Salafi madhab. The people, they say you can't just take the hadith. What about the Salaf? What do they understand? You can't teach in this masjid. It's a masjid of Ahlul Bid'ah. The student of knowledge, he says, well, Allah says this, the Rasul says that, the Quran says teach, explain. It says that's not the what? That's not the understanding of the Salaf. They say the Salaf didn't understand the hadith like you understand it. Everybody understand this? That is, that you transform that, that's what? What is that now? What is that? No. You turn it upside down, it's the same thing. What is it though now? That's also the... That's what Malik is saying. That's what what? That's what what? That's what Malik is saying. This is the hadith about fasting the 6 days of Shawwal, but I never saw what? So obviously, they understood something from the hadith that I don't. So I'm not going to fast the 6 days of Shawwal. Everybody understand this? That hypothetically is the what? We clear on this or not? We've also had that Salih. Ma adakit. What's important here is that Imam Malik rahimahullah, basically, he's saying the interpretation of the Quran and Sunnah is not free, it's not open. But it's only restricted to the people of who? Medina. And that's why. We explained why. What Medina was. Obviously significant. That you can, the same thing. 2 plus 2 equals what? 2 plus 2 equals what? 4. 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4. So Imam Malik saying the understanding of the people of Medina is also
understanding self.
2 plus 2 is 4. 4 ones together is 4. Everybody understand this? So those who reject that view and it says what the people of Medina did is not good, is not strong, they have another major problem when they say that you can't just understand the hadith as you want to. You can't understand the Quran as you want to. Even though it's clear and lucid, but they say that's not the what? It's not the understanding. That's not the what? Understanding of the Salaf as-Salih. That's what he's saying basically. The Salaf as-Salih predominantly lived in Medina. They were most numerous in Medina. Less innovations. The powerful Islamic government was in Medina. Everybody understand this? The Jews, the Christians, the fire worshippers had no authority where? In Medina. There were no Muslim minorities in? There were no Muslim minorities in Medina. There were no, you have doubt about this or not? There were no Muslim minorities. Other countries, they may have been minorities. So as if he's saying, fiqh has to be taken only through the what? Salaf as-Salih. And it is not based off of what they said and did. Even if there's a hadith to prove it, we don't take the hadith. Everybody understand this? We got this? So we have to be very, very, very careful. We start talking about these issues. A brother says, you can't do that. You can't take the hadith until you have the understanding of the Salaf. You can't take this fiqh issue until you have the understanding of? No. Unless you have the understanding of? Here you go. People what? Medina. That's mentioning it. 2 plus 2 is what?
4.
How much? 4. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is what?
4.
How much? 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is what? 4. So let's say it again. Let's say it one more time. You can't take this hadith unless you have the understanding of the Salaf. Everybody clear on this? You can't take this hadith on the fiqh issue unless you have the 2 plus 2 is what? 4 ones equals? It's actually, it's as if it's the same statement, but just worded differently and broken down differently. Accepting it, rejecting it. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this? So what the people of Medina did has to be detail in it. What the Salaf or Salih did, there has to be what? Detail. Okay, for argument's sake now, just to show you something that shatters the window pane. What are you going to do when the Salaf or Salih differ on the issue? When the people of Medina differ? Then what? Whose view do you take then? Abu Bakr takes a view and Umar takes a view. Everybody understand this? Right, that's the general problem. We're talking about now making ijtihad now. You figuring it out yourself. Everybody understand this? So that goes to show you that that can't be an absolute what? Can be. Because there's countless instances in which the Sahaba and the Salaf, Salih, the Tabi'in, they did what? They differed strongly on issues. I understand this? So one can say the Hujjah is the what? Of people of Medina is the what? Ijma'. The Hujjah of the Salaf Salih is the what? Ijma'. What they understood collectively as a whole is no doubt that's the interpretation of Hadith. They differed on the issue, then it has to go back to the principles. Whose view is what? Closest to the haqq. For him to have that is a very important concept. And last but not least, the statement of one tabi'i is impossible to be the understanding of the Salaf Salih. He is one of the tabi'in. He is not all of them. The statement of one companion cannot be the understanding of the companions. Unless he says, kunna, we used to. We never used to. We always used to. Then it's a different level of severity. Because he's talking about what? Collectiveness. But Ibn Umar's view was given zakat al-fitr a day or 2 days before the Eid. That's not the other view of the what? Of the Sahaba. The Prophet said give the food out on the... Everybody understand this? So you have to avoid contradiction and double standard. What the Fahm al-Salaf is, one or two things. As Shaykh Hussain and others mentioned. Number one, the ijma', clear consensus. And the second is that which is the overwhelming majority of them. Most of them, 8 out of 10, held this view. 9 out of 10, held this view. We can say that's the what? That's the fahm of Salaf Salih. That's the understanding of the people of Medina. Everybody understand this? One person's view does not mean that it's the view of them all. So many people, they make errors when they start talking about this. Because they don't have the proper scientific details. The proper what? Scientific details. So my advice to you, brother, in Islam, is to continue studying. And hopefully, bidhnillah, when you study these things with an open mind, an open chest, seeking Allah's help, seeking Allah's guidance, bidhnillah, it will lead you to being independent. You continue to study and learn the form, hopefully it will lead you to studying and learning the formless. Bidhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you're going to see inconsistencies. You're going to see times when the students differ with the teacher. You're going to see the times when Imam Malik rejects another person's statement. You're going to see times in which Ibn Abdul Barr takes the view directly off the hadith and not what his teacher said. You're going to find bigots and fanatics. You're going to find this one and that one arguing blindly just to defend the opinion of the Maliki Madhab. You're going to see this in abundance if you keep studying, if you dig and scratch deep enough beneath the surface. And that's going to lead you to your own reservations and opinions. And when you become independent, you take off the training wheels, it doesn't mean that you totally disregard what you previously learned. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that there's no worth, there's no value of those other books that you studied. But it now means that you can't, there's no more training wheels. You have to, by yourself, independently, based off of what you've been taught. Everybody understand this? So that's my advice to you, and that's my opinion when it comes to Maliki Madhab. Me personally, I don't follow any Madhab. Okay? I have not formally studied Maliki Madhab. Studied different things, different teachers, different books, comparative, whether that read different things from the Hanafi Madhab, Shafi'i, Ahmed, Malik, the Zahiri Madhab, this one, Ata, Fulan, Aisha. Okay, so me personally, I wouldn't advise you personally to just suffice yourself with that. Learn a few basic things, study a book or 2 or 3, study with some years under your teacher, and then after that, take off the training wheels. And learn and follow what you feel makes the most sense in your heart, which is closest to the dalil. If there's an issue in which there's no hadith, no ayah, no ijma', and you say, I want to take the opinion of Malik, la bas. if it makes sense to you. You don't have time to research, different story. It's too difficult for you, too burdensome, that's what? Different story. But if you have the aql, the mind, the ability to decipher for yourself, that's what you should do. As Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَلَا تَخْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ. Don't go near that which you have no knowledge of. Don't approach that which you don't know about. And blind following is not knowledge. The opinion of Fulan isn't what? It's not knowledge. Everybody understand this? So that's my advice, and that's my opinion on Maliki Madhab, and on the people of Medina, what they did. And most importantly, if you do continue to study Madhab, don't be a bigot. Don't be a fanatic. Don't be somebody who's crazed and frenzied about one way. And everything else besides Maliki Madhab is weak and trash and crap, as many people are, unfortunately. They make up hadiths to support their Madhab. They'll lie, they'll slander, they'll hide the information. When there's a hadith that is for their madhab that's totally weak, they'll keep silent about it. The hadith against their madhab, they'll criticize and they'll critique it point by point, narrator by narrator. Don't be like that. If you follow that, if you study that, then be fair and be just. And be a follower of the dalil. Be a follower of the dalil. Malik, Shafi'i, Ahmed, anyone. Follow the dalil. Based off of what makes sense, what? To you. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Of course, this can only be done after years of study. Years of proficiency, years of being spoon-fed. Then you learn and develop your own diet, your own taste. Everybody understand this? Wallahu ta'ala alam. Sorry for taking long for that question, but that's a very important question that necessitates what? That type of detail. Wallahu alam. We stop now? هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله محمد